What up, friends? Welcome back to the Daily Dose. Hey, we're coming at you today with day number 133. We have got a new book of the Bible. We just finished one yesterday. We're moving on to the next one today. Today we've got the book of Obadiah. Now, here's what's cool about this. It's very short. It is one chapter. That's it. One chapter. And that's all we're covering today, aside from our psalm for the day, right? So we've got Psalm 128 and the book of Obadiah, which is Obadiah chapter 1. And that's it. Now, we are in a new book of the Bible, so as is customary, we have got a video down below, link in the description, that walks you through the basics and gives you kind of a summary of what to expect in this book. So, click on that link, watch the video, and I'm sure you'll find it pretty helpful and cool. So, because this is such a short book, there's only 21 verses here, right, in this chapter. And there's only one chapter in this book. I figured I would just read through all of it with y'all and make a few comments along the way, and we'll see how long it takes, right? Shouldn't take too long. I think that that'll be a good way to move through the story today. So, starts off by talking about Obadiah's vision. So I'm just going to read through, comment along the way, starting at verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. This is what the sovereign Lord says about Edom. We have heard a message from the Lord. An envoy was sent to the nations to say, "Rise, let us go against her for battle." So, what this sounds like to me, and I've got to admit to y'all, I'm not very familiar at all with this book of the Bible, right? I probably should have done some research, but I figured, hey, let's just jump in and I will give an honest opinion of what I think some of this stuff means without really doing any research or anything up front. Now, in the past, we've talked about Israel's neighbors and how God used some of the surrounding people groups, that he used them to discipline Israel by allowing these other foreign people groups to attack, right? So when I read this, it says, "We have heard a message from the Lord. An envoy was sent to the nations to say, 'Rise, let us go against her for battle.'" What it sounds like to me is that this envoy is going out to the other various pagan nations that are near Israel, and it's saying, "Rise, let us go against her for battle." Her meaning Israel. That's kind of what I think is going on here. I could be totally wrong, you guys. Could be totally wrong. But that's kind of what I think is they're talking about. And then at the next verse it says, "See, I will make you small among the nations. You will be utterly despised." So I think that is kind of talking about, hey, once these other nations come on you and potentially rise against Israel for battle, once that happens, Israel is going to be so small among the nations, and Israel is going to be utterly despised. "The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who live in the clefts of rocks, and make your home on the heights." So it's talking about pride of the heart and being deceived. So when it says, "you who live in the clefts of rocks," what I think about is if there is kind of a cleft in a rock, I think of like a big rock wall, and there's some sort of like a crevice, a crevasse, if you will, that kind of goes in there. And when you're inside there, you're protected from pretty much everything, right? I mean, assuming there's not like a bear hiding in there or something. When you're in the cleft of this rock, and you're in there deep enough, you're safe from the elements for the most part. Depending on how narrow the entrance is to this cleft, you could be safe from large beasts that try to get at you. So I kind of think of this as people being prideful in like a sense of security, like they're tucked away and they're in this little place that they think is safe, right? That's kind of what I envision here. And then it says, "You make your home on the heights." So it's like it's talking about, hey, you put your homes up high. You think you're living high up there, high on the hog. "And you say to yourself, 'Who can bring me down to the ground?' Though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord." So it seems to be speaking of people who are prideful. And they're like, look, we have made this name for ourselves, and we are living up here high. What's somebody going to do to us? Who's going to hurt us? What? We're Israel. Come on. We're God's people. Well, who's going to come against us? That's kind of what I envision going on here. But then the Lord says, but even from up there, even from your high little place, I'm still going to bring you down. How about that? And then it says, if thieves came to you, if robbers in the night, oh, what a disaster awaits you. Would they not steal only as much as they wanted? If grape pickers came to you, would they not leave a few grapes? But how Esau will be ransacked, his hidden treasures pillaged. All your allies will force you to the border. Your friends will deceive and overpower you. So that's bad, right? So Israel thinks they've got all these alliances, I guess, potentially with these other pagan city-states or nations that are around them. They think they've got all these alliances. But we're told that their so-called allies will force them to the border. These allies will deceive them and overpower them, right? And then it says, those who eat your bread will set a trap for you, but you will not detect it. Could that be kind of a prophecy, like a distant prophecy as well? Kind of talking about Jesus with Judas. It says, those who eat your bread, right? They were dipping their bread and eating their bread together. Those who eat your bread will set a trap for you. Judas set a trap for him, right? But you will not detect it. Now, Jesus detected it because he was God. He knew what was going to happen, so he did detect it. But that's kind of what that verse makes me think of, just a little bit. And then it goes on to say, in that day, declares the Lord, will I not destroy the wise men of Edom, those of understanding in the mountains of Esau? Your warriors, Teman, will be terrified, and everyone in Esau's mountains will be cut down in the slaughter. Wow. So God says, in that day. Now, this could be kind of a double meaning. He could be talking about in that day as in the day of the Lord, like the ultimate day of judgment at the end of time, so to speak. And it could be both. This could be talking about a little bit more of a short-term prophecy, right? When Israel gets taken into captivity, right? So then it goes on to say, because of the violence against your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame. You will be destroyed forever. On the day you stood aloof while strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like one of them. Ooh, that had to hurt. That had to hurt. It said you were like one of them. You should not gloat over your brother in the day of his misfortune, nor rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their destruction, nor boast so much in the day of their trouble. And I think that there's wisdom to that, right? I think that what that is kind of saying is, look, even when you see somebody who is a bad person, right? When that person gets what's coming to them, it's probably not the best thing to cheer them on and say, yeah, you got what you deserved, you sucker, you suck. I can't believe you, yeah, get him, right? In the New Testament, we're told, hey, we need to pray for our enemies, right? We need to pray for our friends, but we also need to pray for our enemies too, right? We need to love our enemies, okay? So we kind of see something here in the Old Testament similar to that, right? You should not gloat over your brother in the day of his misfortune, right? When misfortune falls on somebody, we shouldn't rub it in their face. When somebody makes poor choices and then consequences come about because of those poor choices, that person knows they messed up. They don't need you to come and rub it in their face, right? So it goes on to say, you should not march through the gates of my people in the day of their disaster, nor gloat over them in their calamity in the day of their disaster, nor seize their wealth in the day of their disaster, nor should not wait at the crossroads to cut down their fugitives, nor hand over their survivors in the day of their trouble. The day of the Lord is near for all nations. As you have done, it will be done to you. Your deeds will return upon your own head. Just as you drank on my holy hill, so all the nations will drink continually. They will drink and be as if they had never been. But on Mount Zion will be deliverance. It will be holy, and Jacob will possess his inheritance. Jacob will be a fire, and Joseph a flame, Esau will be stubble. They will set him on fire and destroy him. There will be no survivors from Esau. The Lord has spoken. Okay, we're almost done. Moving on to verse number 19. People from the Negev will occupy the mountains of Esau, and people from the foothills will possess the land of the Philistines. They will occupy the fields of Ephraim and Samaria, and Benjamin will possess Gilead. This company of Israelite exiles who are in Canaan will possess the land as far as Zarephath. The exiles from Jerusalem who are in Shepherd will possess the towns of the Negev. Deliverers will go up on Mount Zion to govern the mountains of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. Amen. So that covers it for today, but go check out that video, link in the description below. That will help to give you some understanding about what's going on here in this book of the Bible. So I thank y'all for being here, and until we meet again, friends, deuces.